Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Today I'm looking at yet another brand new model from Hornby in TT scale. I should start by saying, yes, I know I've done a lot of Hornby TT reviews recently, and frankly that's because Hornby have released a lot of TT models recently. But I do know that it's not for everyone. I know it won't be everybody's cup of tea, so I want to assure you that I am not planning to cut back on my HO or 00 scale reviews anytime soon. I know those are the dominant scales, and in fact I've got lots of models in those scales to review, and I've been filming quite a few of those recently. But I personally am enjoying the TT reviews. I'm enjoying looking at new models, of course, and so since a new one is out now, thought I would do the review now. So today's model is this. It is the all-new Pullman coach from Hornby in TT scale. Now the Pullman has been out for a little while. It debuted in a Flying Scotsman train set, but the reason I held off on the Flying Scotsman train set is because the Pullmans in that set were not the full fat Pullmans. This Pullman though, I believe, is the full fat Pullman. As you can see from this sticker, this one has working lights, and that is fascinating to me. I'm really interested to see how Hornby have done this. How do the lights pick up power? Are there wiper pickups? Are there axle pickups? Do each of the lamps inside have individual LEDs, or is there some clever sort of light channeling or fibre optics going on? I'd love to find out. Also, this is an extremely expensive coach. The RRP on Hornby's website is £46.49 and it's £39.52 even with the Hornby TT Club discount, so it's a good £40. That to me sounds like a lot of money for a small coach like this. So I'm really eager to see what sort of features and what sort of quality this model is packing into it. So join me, let's find out what this is like together. My first standalone Hornby TT coach. Alright, the Hornby TT Pullman, and as you can see the packaging is much the same as the locomotive packaging. You've got the same TT colour scheme and of course the window in the front of the box so that you can see the model. Let me show you the end of the box then. So the coach I have is TT4003A. It is a Pullman first class kitchen. It is Plato Era 3 with working lights. So I went with the kitchen because I thought it might have a bit more in terms of interior detail, and there might be a little bit more exterior detail as well. Right, let's just do it. I'm going to dive in. Let's see what this is like. High expectations, of course. Quite an expensive model to say that this is in such a small scale. Right, so we don't have any instructions, so I'm going to have a look and see what this is that's just dropped out. So these to me look like doors or perhaps covers that you would put at either end of the coach to maybe seal up the corridor connectors. Not entirely sure. Of course, no instructions means no idea. So you'd have to figure that one out on your own. I'm pretty sure that's right though. Okay, so we've got a blister pack. I don't think there's any more in the way of accessories here. So let's open it up. Let's see what the quality of the finish is like. Alright, we've still got some plastic on this to protect it, which is good. Let's lift that away. Oh yeah. Yeah, all of this TT stuff has a great quality paint job. I have to say they have not skimped on that. It's just as good as some of their 00 stuff has been. Very nice. Right, let's lift this up. Alright, so yeah, it's not a massively heavy coach. That is fairly typical, I suppose, for TT. And I would assume that this does not have a die-cast chassis or anything like that, just because of the weight. The detail, though, looks to be great, doesn't it? The decoration is clearly quite good, and hopefully there will be some sort of interior detail that we can look at on this. Let's flip it upside down. Oh, goodness. Look at that pickup solution. So we've got what look like springs, which fit onto the axles, and presumably those springs will make a light contact with the axle and pick up power from it. And each axle on each bogie is fitted the opposite way to the other, so that you've got one pickup from each rail per bogie. So you've effectively got the pickup capabilities of an 040 locomotive by the looks of it. Very, very interesting. And of course, we'll take a much closer look at the details, at how all of this stuff works in just a second. But for now, let's have a brief history on the Pullman coach, and then we'll take that much closer look. The Pullman Company was founded by George Pullman in 1862, and the word Pullman has really become an umbrella term used to refer to any car made by the company, and sometimes even not cars made by the company. It can just be used to describe any luxury coach with this sort of livery on it. In the UK, Pullman coaches were very much associated with luxury, with elegant paintwork and stylish, spacious interiors. The first Pullman coach to enter service in the UK did so in 1874, but the traditional brown and cream liveries with the names on each coach wouldn't be introduced until 1906. And it was actually the LBSC that introduced this now famous aspect of the British Pullman coach. And looking at a Pullman coach, you can actually see the LBSC influence in the livery, which I think is fascinating and awesome. I didn't really know that. The Pullman is still widely used today, of course, and many heritage railways still run luxury Pullman trains, often with dining experiences too. So there it is, up close and personal for you, Hornby's new Pullman coach in TT scale. And yeah, this looks okay, doesn't it? I would say I like this coach. It looks very decorative, obviously, you definitely get the sense of luxury from it, and it certainly seems to capture the Pullman coach very, very well. I'm not entirely convinced that this was worth the money because while clearly there is a lot of complexity in the decoration, there really isn't very much complexity in the physical model itself. Most of the detailing on the bodywork is just moulded. That goes for the handrails around the doors, it goes for the pipework and most of the roof furniture. Which is a pity because the other parts of roof furniture, which are clearly separately fitted, look a lot better. Those parts just look more detailed, in my opinion. But the decoration is fantastic. The crest looks absolutely fine, even up close. There's lots of very precise lining and such. You've got the curtains on the windows, which seem to be printed onto the glazing, but those are quite detailed in themselves. And even though the details themselves are just a part of the moulding, they have been painted quite accurately so that they do stand out. So all in all, that's not too bad. The tables inside the coach bother me, to put it frankly. The lamps are quite tall and fairly chunky, I would say more so than they seem to be in real life, and certainly more so than they are on the 00 Pullmans that I've got. The tables are also quite skew-if, they often don't line up correctly with the windows. And this one on the end has almost missed the window completely. What is going on with that? Right, so when I saw that, I thought, surely that cannot be an accident, right? Hornby will have had samples through, they will have seen that and they will have signed it off. So I went online to look at photos of real Pullman kitchen cars, and I cannot find any real Pullman that looks quite like that with the table missing the window. The only photos I can find of it looking like that are Hornby's 00 scale Pullman coaches. So either this is correct and I just haven't been able to find a photo that shows it, or Hornby didn't go out and measure a real Pullman coach for their TT range. They just looked at their 00 model and therefore any mistakes in the 00 model were carried over. I'm not pointing the finger at Hornby here, I don't know the answer, but if you know the answer to that one, please do pop it down in the comment section and let me know. But no, the lamps are weird. They are obviously large and they're also made of a sort of transparent plastic, which I assume means that the light will shoot up from below somewhere and reflect off the lampshade. It looks odd up close. Hopefully it will look a little bit better in person. The bogies look good though. There's loads of detail on these bogies. The rivets look great, although the brake pads are absolutely nowhere near the wheels. They're well in front, so not particularly realistic up close. Although the underframe detail does look quite good. You've got a dynamo there for generating electricity, toolboxes and the coach support structure. Yeah, all that looks really, really nice. The ends are quite detailed as well. These corridor connectors are separately fitted parts, I think, which makes them look pretty good. Little bit of interior detail there. And then the buffer beams look pretty good as well. You've got these very, very fine buffers, not sprung of course or anything, but I suspect they probably are separately fitted. And then, as always, with the Hornby TT range, we've got these kinematic couplings, which do seem to be absolutely fine. Fairly smooth motion on those. I'm yet to have a problem with these couplings in service, so hopefully the same will be true of this coach. I don't know though, the way the power is picked up is odd, and it makes the coach do odd things. Sort of push it along. You see the way it suddenly stopped there and almost sprung back? It's very weird. Let's try that again. See that? Yeah. So, and you can hear the springs sort of clicking. Look at that, the way it sort of springs. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not free rolling particularly, but it does seem to sort of hit a sticky spot every now and then, and you can hear those springs sort of catching and turning and such. So yeah, I don't know how free rolling this is going to be. I don't know how many of these a TT Loco would be able to haul. Obviously I've only got one, so I can only test it with one, but a rake of 12 or something, yeah, I think you're going to struggle with that. Anyway, let's get the layout set up, and what I'm really interested in is seeing those lights. Okay, so the coach is down onto the track. No locomotive at the moment, because really I just want to look at the lights without the coach moving anywhere. So I think I'm all connected up. Let's find out whether it was worth it. Was it worth having these lamps with lights underneath? Let's have a look. Turning up power now. Yeah, that's actually quite pleasing. I can tell there's a capacitor in there because they faded off when I switched direction. See how they sort of fade? So that should reduce flickering. Let's move up and down a little bit. Yeah, so I'm not keen on the pickups because look what they do. They cause all sorts of weird stuff to happen. But there's not too much drag, I suppose, and they are very reliable. Look at those. Let's lift one axle up. Yeah, even with half the pickups going, they're barely starting to flicker. Very nice. Let's go for a close-up for you, show you one of the lamps. Alright, there you go. And yeah, I think the translucent nature of the lamp itself doesn't really affect this too much. Yeah, the top of the lamp glows, the stem of the lamp doesn't really glow, even though there is light travelling through it. Yeah, it's a really, really clever design. I think the brightness is quite pleasing. It is subtle yet noticeable. We haven't got little nuclear blasts going off on each table, which is good. And the colour temperature is quite pleasing as well. It's definitely quite an orangey light. Thank goodness they didn't use a cool white LED or something like that, because some manufacturers do that to represent tungsten bulbs and such, and it's just, why? That's not how bulbs look. Yeah, no, this is good. Yeah, that looks really, really decent. Let's run it past a little bit for you. See some of the other lamps. Yeah, they're all working. Very nice. So I think we're going to get this coach going in just a second. We'll test it on points and curves and such. But first, let's just have a peek inside. So the body clips off quite easily, and the interior detail piece is just kind of loose inside. The chassis has this custom circuit board on top of it. It's important that the LEDs are in a specific space so that they shine up into the lamps very precisely, and that's why the custom circuit board was necessary, to ensure the precise positioning of each LED. And in terms of capacitors, we have not just one, but actually two. We have one at either end, which does produce that smoothness, which is very, very good. Although it does seem as though there's no way to control these LEDs. I cannot see a DCC socket on here, and I can't see anything in the way of a switch or a reed switch or anything like that. So on analog, the lights are only going to be on when you run a loco, and on digital, the lights will be on all the time that your controller is switched on. Now I've got the gorgeous Hornby TT A4 on the track, and I'm going to try coupling up to this Pullman coach. So both are on the straight, just about. So let's check the direction. Which way are we set? Let's find out. Yeah, that looks good. Let's try coupling. Hopefully this will work just as well as with everything else, and hopefully we will maintain the no derailment streak. Wow, so look at the close coupling there between the coach and the loco. That is outstanding, isn't it? They are very, very nearly touching. The buffers too are very, very close, as you can see. Wow. Right, let's get started. Let's see how we get on. Right, so it seems to be working very, very nicely on the third radius curves here. Lights still visible, even though the loco is running at just 40 speed on the controller, so that's okay. The pickups, well, they're okay, aren't they? I understand why they didn't use wiper pickups on the wheels, because that would have introduced a lot of drag for these very light locos. It would have knocked them for 6. I also kind of understand why they didn't use the axle point pickups. I think that might have produced less drag, but that does complicate the axle, doesn't it? You have to put an insulator between the two halves of the axle, which at this scale again would be very complicated. So I'm actually quite impressed with the design. It isn't perfect, it does produce a fair bit of drag, but I assume the drag is less than it would be with wiper pickups, and it's a little bit less overcomplicated than it would be if they'd implemented axle point pickups. So if you really want lights on TT stuff, I guess this is the way to do it. Are the lights really necessary? Well, they are a bit of a gimmick, aren't they? I can imagine many people not being bothered about the lights. Personally, I like them, but they have of course meant that the lamps are larger perhaps than they ordinarily would be, and they have added extra drag, and I don't think there's any way to get these Pullmans without the lights fitted unless you go for the train set versions. So maybe it would be nice to have a version of these models available without the lights, just to save a little bit of money and give us a little bit more of a choice in the matter. But yeah, the lights, absolutely fine. Right, let's send this over some points then, make sure it stays on the track over those. Alright, please keep those fingers crossed for no derailments then. Let's open up the points and let's back the coach through them with the loco coupled. Yeah, excellent. Second radius. Looks good. Yeah. Well, let's shut that point so we can let the coach go past. Oops, wrong way. And let's try going back onto the main line. Here we go. Well, seems pretty perfect, doesn't it? No derailments, no issues. Another very reliable TT model. Let's do some ratings for this then. The level of detail for me is a 4-star. Generally really good. The decoration and the finish is good. The interior is pretty decent as well for the scale, and it also has lights, which is great. There is a slight over-reliance, I think, on moulded detail, and some of the bogie detail isn't particularly realistic, the brake pads for instance. But besides that, no major issue, an easy 4-star there. Performance, similarly, can't really fault this in much of a major way. It's nice and smooth, it couples properly, it handles itself well on curves and points without ever derailing. It just is a little bit draggy because of the lighting pickups. It's not a bad design, it's probably the best compromise in terms of design, but it's not as free-rolling as, let's say, a coach without lighting, so that is something you have to think about. The quality for me is also a 4-star. It is a little bit plasticky, no die-cast on the chassis or anything like that, but it's otherwise pretty good. The build quality is fine. The weight is pretty good at 44 grams, which is about 7 grams more than the Mark 1 I looked at. I think without the lighting it would be approximately the same weight. Otherwise though, build quality fairly decent. The value for money, £46.49 is the RRP, or £39.52 with the TT Club discount. I think that's okay, it's probably middle of the road. It is a little bit pricey for what you get, I think, but it's certainly not terrible. If this had a few more separately fitted parts, if it had a little bit more metal on it, then maybe it would be worth the money. But still, features such as lighting do help to improve the value here. So overall that is 7.39 out of 10. What do you think to that? Have I been too harsh? Have I been too generous? This gets a grade of C from me. However, if the price was better and it was a 5-star on value, it would have gotten a grade of B, which I think is probably a little bit more deserved, if not for the price. Anyway, we're starting a brand new TT logbook. Hopefully I will be able to fill this up very soon with some TT rolling stock, but at the moment it is just this Pullman coach in top place, and we'll see how this stacks up against other TT rolling stock in the future. So there you have it folks, that is yet another quite lovely TT model from Hornby, which further goes to show what a viable scale this is. I think the lights may not be ultra necessary, but I think they do make a statement, because they say that yes, this is smaller than 00, but we can still achieve the same level of detail. Do you want lights on the table lamps? not a problem in TT. That's quite a statement, isn't it? Overall, yeah, quite an impressive coach. I wish I had a few more of them. I might buy some more of them in the future, who knows. But yeah, lovely model. If you want to get one, I would recommend it. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Do comment down below and let me know what you think about this. But for now, I'll say thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you very soon for another review. All right, folks, take care.